It is now my great honor to introduce Dr. Salman Abu Sitta, who will orient us from his home in the UK. Dr. Salman Abu Sitta.
Good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you for inviting me. I gladly agreed. Here we gather today. I have in mind Edward Said. He comes to mind when truth is hidden, or worse, when it is deliberately falsified. He says, and I quote, "Nothing in my view is more reprehensible than those habits of mind in the intellectual that induce avoidance, turning away from a difficult and principled position, which you know to be the right one, but which you decide not to take." This kind of intellectual, I mean the person who knows the truth and denies it, is contributing to crimes committed, and he is liable to be an accomplice as well. What then would be the case of a person who's actually the victim of these crimes? Should he be silent in fear of more crimes inflicted on him, or in desperation against the ocean of deception and misinformation? Does he feel it is impossible to navigate? Umar had the answer. You shall fight to get the truth out, no matter what it takes. You have to find the truth and tell it to those who knew it, but were cowards to tell it. You have to tell it to those who were deceived and were kept in ignorance about it. And where would you do that? Naturally, you would do it in the place where the truth was buried. In Palestine, that was destroyed in 1948, and its entire people were dispossessed. You do that in this place. The obvious place for Omar to start his activity was Zokrot. That is where I first met him many years ago. As you well know, in the West or everywhere, in the police practice, they take the criminal to the scene of the crime and order him to show how he did it. This did not happen yet. Those who created Al Nakba, in which 560 towns and villages were attacked and depopulated by the Haganah, are still free. They were not brought to the scene of the crime yet. But others who did not do it, but perhaps benefited from it or accepted it, wanted to know the truth. Those were the community of Omar's work. Yet there is another group who were more keen than anybody to know the truth. The victims themselves, their children and their grandchildren. They wanted to see the scene of the crime. But more than others, they wanted more to return to the destroyed home, to rebuild it, and to honor the place where their parents were born, to restore the mosque or church or cemetery, and to bring life to the place which was destroyed. In short, to restore the rights to the holders of the keys to their houses and denied from returning. Diligently, patiently, and authentically, Omar pursued his task with other determined Palestinians and well-meaning Israelis. Omar pursued his task for many years. It was a seed he planted in a dry land, but its flower blossomed faintly but steadily. I often think of the future generations of the world. How would they look at the history of Al Nakba? How would they do that, which we witnessed and we still live in its dark shadow? They would ask, how could this happen? How could this happen? How could people come from Europe after the persistent persecution in their home countries can inflict so many massacres, so many expulsions, so much destruction, so much looting, so much plunder against people they have never seen before, against people who have done them no harm whatsoever? I shall leave this thorny question to the renowned historian Arnold Toynbee in his study of history, and he says, and I quote, "Of all the somber ironies of history, none throws a more sinister light on human nature than the fact that the new style nationalist Jews, on the morrow of the most appalling of the many persecutions that the race has endured, should at once proceed to demonstrate that the lesson learned by the Zionists from the suffering which Nazis had inflicted on them was not to forbear from committing the crimes which they themselves had been the victims, but to persecute in their turn the Palestinian Arabs, a people weaker than they were." End of quote. Thus, it needs no saying that Umar is a hero in a long battle in which many people do not dare to enter, but Umar did, and he paves the way for like-minded heroes to follow. And I'm sure they will triumph, they will win. Palestine will be free, and Umar's work will bear fruit. Thank you.